Hi everybody, so I'm on my way to work again and thought I would do this video. Last night the Prince William County Board of County Supervisors voted on the Equal Rights Amendment, and I had received an email, but it was kind of put on my read later, and I was going to send it to you guys, but then time got away from me and I forgot until yesterday afternoon. And so they were voting on it last night. And this is the same Equal Rights Amendment that when I was a child was going around in the 70s. And it's being, I don't even know if it's been reconstructed or if it's the same thing. But anyway, the left is trying to get this passed because they want a national, they want an amendment to the U.S. Constitution. And in order to do that, they have to have 38 states pass it. So they've targeted Virginia as the 38th state. And so what the left has done in Virginia is they've gone to the counties, and they were trying to get some of the counties to pass it so that next year when they take it to the Virginia state legislature, they can say, look, all these counties have already passed it, so you might as well pass it because it has all this support. So Prince William County was targeted, and so I went last night. And they had another issue they dealt with first. So this issue didn't even start until 9:30, and I didn't get there early enough to sign up to speak. So I really just kind of went to listen. Well, there were, I was really impressed with the number of people against the ERA, that came out to speak, because what it does is, equal rights sounds wonderful, for everybody, and it is wonderful for everybody, but this leaves so many open loopholes that would affect abortion. It would affect gender, men and women are treated as the same, literally the same, like same locker room. It opens the door for sports teams to be integrated, male and female, locker rooms to be integrated. It opens the door for a whole bunch of stuff. So that's the issue. Well, there was a lot of people that came out and spoke against it. They heard, from 9:30 to I don't even know. I think probably 11:45 was people talking, for or against it. You get 3 minutes to speak. So what happened is at the end of it, Gainesville Supervisor Pete Canland said there was 34 that had spoken against it, and I think 23 that had spoken for it. So the against the ERA was more than the for it, but it was pretty even. So at the end of what happens is you have to get there early, get your name on a list, and then they put you in, you speak in the order that you got your name on the list. Well, I didn't get there early enough to put my name on a list, so I didn't intend to speak. But at the end of it, then he said, is there anybody here that wasn't on the list that wants to speak? So I went up there with, I think there was like 3 other people. And there was a lot of, for the people who were against it, there was a lot of talk about abortion and the other things that I mentioned, along with some other things. But the most of it was abortion. And so the people who are for the ERA were like, this is ridiculous, this isn't what we're talking about. So when I got up there, I just said, I'm not going to reiterate everybody who was against it because I agree with them. But what happens is, anytime you have policy, you have loopholes. And if there's not a loophole, somebody's going to find one. And so there's too many question marks. Basically what I said is there's too many question marks in this to really know whether you should affirm it and pass it without looking further into it. Well, anyway, so I did say something, so yay me, because that was a huge step, because I did not intend to go do that. And I stayed. I did not leave the place until 12:30 this morning because I waited till the end. But I literally stayed because I felt impressed that I was supposed to say something, and it was more for me to step out and do it than it was what I said. It was me take this step and do it. And because I've never done anything like that. And so I was like, thank you, Jesus. Did it. And I didn't have anything planned to say either. So I had to kind of talk off the top of my head based on what I had heard. And so anyway, at the end of it, so Frank Principe, who I can't remember which area he represents in Prince William, he's the one that brought the motion forward. And at the end of it, he said what he thought. And then he brought the motion forward to pass it for the county. Not one other. They were missing. There's 8 Board of County Supervisors. They were missing one from the meeting, and then he brought it. So, of the 6 other people that were there last night, not one of them motioned for a second. And Corey Stewart even said, he's the chairman, so he said, is there a motion? He asked again, and nobody said anything. So he said, motion fails. And I was like, wow, because I didn't expect it to fail with no other support. But what happened is a lot of them came out. Janine Lawson from Brentsville, Maureen Cadigan, who represents Potomac, maybe? I can't remember exactly. Coles, maybe it's, I don't remember. No, Martin Nohe, who represents Coles, Maureen Cadigan, and they all said, I'm very pro-life, and if there's anything that comes first and foremost, and this has raised too many questions, and all of them said, I had intended to vote for this because, who's not going to vote for equal rights? And they said, but there's been so many questions come up about this that I can't put it forward with the understanding that I have now. And they said, we need to research this more. And then one of them, Maureen Cadigan, said, I don't even know why we're voting on this as a county board of supervisors. I mean, she said, this is a constitutional amendment. There's no reason that we would be voting on this, which goes back to it's a plan devised by the left because it really shouldn't be voted on at the county level. Then Pete Canland, who's the Gainesville supervisor, my supervisor, I was super impressed with him because he said, I have spent hours upon hours upon hours researching this. He said from the very beginning of it in the 70s, and he said there's been committee at the national level. He said there's been committees and subcommittees and so much talk and debate for decades. And he said, and we sit as county board of supervisors, we've had 2 weeks to decide on this. And he said, honestly, I don't feel like, in number one, it's something that we should be voting on. And number two, he said, we have questions about the land use decisions that we do, much less an amendment to the U.S. Constitution. And so he said there's just really not enough time to really, we haven't been given enough time to really consider this. And he said, I can't move forward with it. I was so impressed that they did that. And that they took the time to really research it and to listen to everybody. And this convinced me more than anything, if you show up, because I've only been to a couple of these types of meetings, and one I left because it took so long to get to what I was there for, I just left. But I am so convinced that going to these meetings and speaking about whatever you're concerned about, for or against something, is so important because they will listen. If you go there, they will listen. The other thing Pete Canland said is he said, we've had 34 speak out against it and 20 something for it. And he said he had gotten 15 emails for it and 2 emails against it. But he said it comes out to about almost half and half, 50% for it and 50% against it from the people that he heard from Gainesville. And he said, we're the Board of County Supervisors, we're supposed to vote on things that are a consensus of the people. And he said, what this has shown me is there's really no consensus, which is true. It's divided. It's just as divided as our country is. And on all of these issues. And he said, there is no consensus. And he said, given that there's no consensus, we really can't move forward and vote on something like this when you've got half your constituency for it and half of it against it. So it was good. I was glad that the supervisors did that. But they listen to people. When you speak your voice, they listen to you. And so I just think it's important for all of us moving forward. When there's a hot topic that we really need to take a stand against as believers, that it's important for us to go to these meetings. I'm not saying you have to, but I'm just saying in general it's important for people because they listen to people. The other thing I noticed is the people, we need to pray for next year's elections, because the Board of County Supervisors, they're all up, I believe all of them, but anyway, some of them at least, if not all of them, are up for re-election next year. And I can tell you from the people that spoke for this, there is, and based on what happened in Virginia in 2017 and some of the races we lost in this last election, there is an all-out assault from the left to turn Virginia completely blue. Completely. I went to one of the chairman for the school board debates, and the guy that's the Democrat, Babur Lateef, who won actually for the next year, he's only in there for a year because then it's up for re-election again. He even mentioned the Board of County Supervisors a few times in some of his responses at the school board debate. And so I knew then, I was like, there's a plan being devised to really overturn a lot of things. And it was evident from what some of the state representatives and senators said who spoke out last night. And it was evident, even one of the guys that's running against Ruth Anderson, she's down there, maybe she's Woodbridge, maybe she's down there somewhere, but represents them. But this guy, and he's young, he's a minority, and he's very articulate. And that's the one thing that I've noticed with everything from the left, is they're getting young, articulate people to run for offices, whether they be minorities, whether they be women, whatever it is, that's what they're doing, and they're very articulate and very impassioned. And so it's going to be interesting. We really need to pray that we continue to have people who value what we value stay on the Board of County Supervisors and the school board next year, because all of that's up for re-election as well. And because almost every one of those people, our Board of County Supervisors, said they were pro-life, and the abortion controversy made a huge impact on them. So with this ERA thing, and so and I know the people there from the left were not at all happy. Some of them stormed out in the middle of the meeting, some of them stormed out at the end, and some of them stayed till the end. So anyway, it's going to be very interesting next year, but we just need to be praying for real. So I just wanted to give you that bit of information. ERA did not pass in Prince William County, which is a good thing, but watch the state, because the state of Virginia is going to try to pass it next year. Now I know why Lance Wallnau does this all the time on his videos, because you do this and you see all your wild hairs that are sticking up everywhere. Anyway, that's it. I'm going into work now, and love you guys, and have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving, and be blessed. Bye.